Everybody, welcome to the newest episode of Historic Cruise. On today's episode, we are going to be going from Hemlock in southern Berry County, traveling on State Route 155 westward to the village of Shawnee. It's just kind of building on the first episode that we did, going from New Straitsville to Shawnee, kind of just going kind of up into that village instead of from the south, from the east. So let's go and get this car into gear and let's go, huh? So, Hemlock was founded, as we come around here onto Main Street, Hemlock was founded in 1872, and was founded, again, coal mining, as you could assume, right around the same time, also, as New Straitsville and Shawnee. So we go through Main Street and get toward 155. I'm going to go slow and just imagine houses packed in here so tight that you have to walk sideways in between them. That is literally what this used to look like. As we go by the remains of the old post office is right there, or was to our right before we cross that bridge. And we're going to turn left. And as we go left, we're going to go through what remains, though not much, of the village of or the little community, rather, of Ludington, and then right after that was Carrington. And Carrington actually had a depot on the rail line that left Shawnee and came to Hemlock, and then there was a spur that went back into Hemlock there, and that was where the coal cars would have access to the mines and all the tipples and such. So, and again, speaking of coal mining and all of that, keep in mind, just as I say in every video, the trees that we see all up on the hillsides and around the roads would have been long gone, or would have been gone, excuse me, all during the late 1800s and into the 1900s. Again, used for the railroading industry and to build the structures of all of the communities. So the timber was a hot commodity, as you can imagine. But as far as Hemlock goes, its history, as I said, it goes back to 1872. But the fascinating thing about that is there was actually people living in what would become Hemlock a few decades prior to that. And the area I want to really dive into, though, as we continue this drive, is in July of 1863, during the Civil War, when Confederate General John Hunt Morgan brought his band of Confederate cavalry raiders up through the Ohio River Valley on his great raid, which, as a quick background, started in Tennessee, and the purpose was to pull some of the Union troops that were pressuring the smaller Confederate army in that particular area to try and draw them to the north. The idea was just to go to really to the Ohio River, but John Hunt Morgan and his men crossed into Indiana, and then ultimately kept crossing the Ohio River, went through Cincinnati, and came into the Little States of Black Diamonds region, even though there was no real large-scale coal mining, or there wasn't large-scale coal mining going on at that time. He came in through southeast Hocking County, hit Nelsonville, came up through this way, and went through Hemlock and what would become Corning as well, right through that area. The people of Hemlock, during historic accounts of that summer in 1863, many people remember seeing, and kind of in shock and fear, seeing a couple of thousand Confederate cavalrymen just coming upon your land. It was right down your road. It had to have been quite shocking. But one of the great stories, actually a couple years ago, I met a guy in Benton County, I believe is where it was at, and I don't remember his name, and I don't remember the exact specifics per se, but the great thing about this story was that it came from a relative of his, like a great grandma or something to that extent, and his story, he told me, said that they lived in what would become Hemlock, and his great grandma, or his ancestor, whoever it might have been, she heard that they were coming, and she hid. Well, right before she hid, she'd actually been baking pies, and the pies she put on the windowsill to cool. And then she heard that they were coming, so she hid to make it seem like there wasn't anybody in the home. Well, once all the Confederates had passed, she went back to check on her pies, and they were gone, which was a common theme. Wherever the raiders went, they just kind of took or borrowed, as they often would say, from the inhabitants wherever they may be, whether that was horses, food, whatever the case. So kind of a little interesting anecdote of history in what would become Hemlock and be so tied to coal mining. And really only about 20 years after that, in 1881-82, the vast majority, it was reported in the Athens Messenger, the vast majority of the people that lived there were actually Germans and German immigrants. So there would have been people speaking German more or less than there would have been speaking any English at that point. So, and here we are now on Main Street in Shawnee, and right here by the Little Cities of Black Diamonds archive and our offices here. So this is where we're going to stop this historic cruise at. So I hope you found this interesting and learned a little bit about the community of Hemlock and this little area of southern Perry County. It's had quite a history. It's not just involved with coal mining, but with the Civil War, in fact. So again, I hope you enjoyed this, and hope to see you again on the next episode of Historic Cruise.